Hi there, everyone, and good morning. I'm Will DuPree here in the KXAN live studio. This morning, we wanted to do something a little bit different. Of course, it's in line with everything that's been happening here in the last 2 weeks or so with the COVID-19 outbreak. However, this is something for all the parents out there with kids who are now home from school. If you'll remember, Governor Greg Abbott signed an executive order yesterday effectively closing all the schools throughout the state at least until April 3rd. It could go longer, but at the moment it's until April 3rd. So there's been discussions here in our newsroom about what we can do to kind of engage a lot of the young people who are at home right now and maybe take a little bit of the load off of some of the parents out there who are also trying to work from home. So our discussion kind of started formulating about like what kind of lesson that we could be able to share with all of you at home and your kids. So if you have any kids around you right now, maybe gather them in front of your phone or in front of your computer, because we have some lessons to share with you about the weather. And today's a good day to talk about it. So meteorologist David Yeomans is joining me here in the KXAN live studio. David, good morning.
Will, good morning to you and to everybody else at home. Thank you guys so much for joining us. First Warning Weather University is a project we've been working on for months, almost a year actually. Me and a talented producer upstairs who does some of the animation work and dulls down my science into common speak for me. But yeah, it's been an ongoing project. We've got 13 or 14 of these videos on our website anytime, and like you mentioned, Will, we're trying to make the best of these new times that we all find ourselves in, and we thought, I know the parents, including my sister, can be a little bit overwhelmed, right? You're entertaining the kids now all day for possibly what could be weeks or longer. So we wanted to let everybody know what we've been doing, and we're going to start to feature one of these cool videos that we've done, and also more importantly a Q&A for you guys and for you guys on Instagram watching with any questions that you or the kids might have about the subject we're talking about.
And of course, if you take a look right there, this is a live shot from our Austonian camera in downtown Austin. This is really kind of pertaining to what we're going to talk about today. It's a wet, rainy day, David.
That's right, yeah. Why is Central Texas called Flash Flood Alley, and why does Central Texas have some of the most dangerous and most frequent flash floods out of anywhere in the country? So this is certainly a pertinent topic. Last night, Will, we had over 3.5 inches of rain in the hill country. Luckily, we only had minor flooding, luckily because the soil is so dry and thirsty. But you know, other times it seems like every year, really every year, Will, we do have people getting hurt and getting in trouble by flooding in Central Texas. And really, when you look at the country, flash flooding is actually the #1 way that people do get in trouble with the weather.
And most people maybe wouldn't even think of Central Texas being as Flash Flood Alley.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's Jim Spencer actually told me, you all know Jim, the state climatologist, I think it was back in like 1920s or 1930, he's famed for saying Texas is the land of perennial drought interrupted by periodic devastating floods. It always seems like it's one extreme or the other. It can be hot and dry, absolutely, but yeah, we can get over a foot of rain sometimes in just one event.
All right, so this is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Again, these are First Warning Weather University videos that David and one of our talented producers, Eric Henriksen, have been putting together over the last, several months now? Yeah,
almost a year, I want to say. Yeah. We were lucky enough to win an award for it as well, so I hope you and the kids at home find some value in this while you guys are sitting at home on a rainy day.
So tee this one up for us, David. This one is about what again?
Yes, so why is Central Texas called Flash Flood Alley? Let's check it out.
All right, thanks guys, and this is Flash Flood Alley with David Yeomans, so take a look.
Chances are you've heard of Tornado Alley, where most tornadoes happen, but did you know that Central Texas is Flash Flood Alley? We have some of the most dangerous flash floods in the country, and there are 3 reasons why. First, when it rains, it really pours. Being close to the Gulf of Mexico means tons of moisture is available for storms. In fact, it's not unusual for a storm to drop 4 inches of rain in just 1 hour. Next, we have shallow soil with hard rock underneath. Think of a sponge underneath your faucet. If you run water on it, it'll soak up as much water as it can before it starts spilling out. Our sponge is thin, so it fills up quickly, and any additional rain on top of that turns into floodwaters. Lastly, we have steep terrain. Instead of water just pooling in one place, our hill country geography funnels the floodwaters rapidly downhill. And moving water is a powerful force. Most people who are hurt during flash floods are hurt driving through the water. The safest thing you can do in a flood, just stay home.
Once again, that was David Yeomans with our First Warning Weather University video. And David, those are so cool with the different graphics and things. What was the idea kind of talking about doing this particular one about flooding in Central Texas?
So broader scale, this all started because I've loved the weather since I was a kid, Will.
Right.
I've been obsessed with it since my parents would take me to the library to get books on it. But I really love teaching people about the weather and helping people understand the weather, especially when there's bad or dangerous weather coming. So when it came to what we were going to do in terms of these kind of elementary or middle school geared videos, teaching people, adults have been curious too, why hail forms or why lightning forms or what makes the wind blow. It's just kind of the common questions that people come across. One of the things that's most critical to staying safe in Central Texas weather, which is our main goal on the First Warning Weather team, is how to stay safe in flooding. And as I said at the end of that video, the best thing you can do in a flash flood warning is to just stay home.
Yes, very good words there. And I think it might be important to touch on, and you said in the video there that we just saw, which was so great, what are the conditions here in Central Texas that make it so that flooding is more of a risk?
Yeah, so there are several things. The first thing we touched on was the moisture that's available. So I know we're not next to the ocean, but we're about 150 miles away from the Gulf of Mexico, which in the big scheme of things is close enough to get a southeast wind coming off the Gulf and get a lot of humidity, a lot of moisture in the air. So when you have more moisture in the air, like today when it feels really muggy and kind of sweaty outside, if it weren't 57 degrees, I guess, that means there's more moisture in the atmosphere available to produce rain. So if you live somewhere in the desert, there isn't that moisture, that invisible water vapor floating around in the air to create much rain in the first place. We, living fairly close to an ocean, can get all of that atmospheric moisture available to create, like I said in the video, rain rates of 3 or 4 inches in 1 hour. That's as much rain as we would typically get in a month or a month and a half, and it can happen in an hour or even less here. Second thing we talked about, it was the sponge analogy. So different places in the world have different thicknesses of soil. What do I mean by thickness of soil? Well, like I tell the kids when I talk to elementary schoolers, if you're like me and you tried to dig your way down through the ground, dig to Asia or something across the other side of the world, you wouldn't get very far because there's only a shallow layer of dirt, of soil, and then there's rock. And the rock that's underneath that ground can't really absorb water when it rains. So when it rains, like I talked about the sponge, our little sponge absorbs as much water as it can until it fills up. Now, if we had a lot of soil, 10, 20 feet deep of soil, we would absorb a lot more rain because that's a bigger sponge in your sink. This shallow soil, this little sponge, can't absorb that much water, especially when it rains so hard as it did last night in the hill country, and that makes runoff come easier. That means the water is spilling out of the sponge. Third thing we've got is the terrain around here. It's not mountainous terrain, but it's also not flat. You know, when they get floods in places like Florida or Houston, like we saw in Hurricane Harvey, that floodwater just sits there like a big puddle. When it happens here, the floodwater has to flow downhill because the hills in your neighborhood, all those creeks that are usually empty, and the low water crossings with the roads over them, they channel that water to the path of least resistance, just follows gravity downhill. And since we have some steep hills around here, we can get that water moving pretty quickly.
For sure. And for those of you who are watching us on Facebook at the moment, please ask David questions. He is here to answer them. We want to be able to provide some resources to all of you. And some of you on Facebook right now are saying that you're watching with your kids, so we love that. This is what we wanted to do it for and provide a little bit of a weather/science lesson for everybody.
Yeah, that's great. And also people asked on watching on Instagram, feel free to ask questions. While we're getting some questions, Will, I think you had this up on the page. If you guys want to see more videos, first of all, we're going to feature one of these every week. Every Friday at 9:30 is what we're planning on now. But second of all, if you want to just go to this website, kxan.com/FWWU, that's First Warning Weather University.
And I'll point out that if you go to the weather tab right there, there is a section that says First Warning Weather University, so you can go right there.
Didn't even know it was there.
Yeah.
Even easier. Yeah, but we've got this little title video kind of with an introduction, saying hi, saying what it is. And then this first one, guys, why is the sky blue? We haven't even aired this one. Eric and I just put this one together, and that's one of the common questions that I get from adults, even in the building. Why is the sky blue? And we break it down in like 60 seconds with an astronaut. There's actually an astronaut in this video.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
But yeah, some of the other ones, just real quick, why does sound travel farther when it's cold? Maybe you hear a train horn sometimes on a cold morning, but you usually don't. What is a wind chill? What are the ideal weather conditions for running? This one, meteorologist Kristen Curry did with Eric, and it's really interesting about temperature and humidity. This one's also interesting. Why do pipes burst when they freeze? And it has to do with water expanding as it gets colder. So obviously that next one, the cold front, sometimes we get a little silly. Sometimes we have fun with them.
Get dressed up a little bit too.
There's a balloon on my head in the next one. Eric has a way of convincing me to do things on camera that I wouldn't usually. But yeah, they're all up there for you guys anytime.
My favorite little freeze frame right here is this one.
Oh,
Why does the wind blow? Yeah.
I like how it says engineering department on the fan.
Right.
Yeah, that one's about why does the wind blow? And have you ever thought about that? It's kind of interesting. And
That is true.
with Eric's help, it was simple enough to explain. So you guys can check that out.
What I love, again, is that, you grew up as a kid loving weather, and now
Absolutely.
it's translated into this, and you're able to share that knowledge with people and maybe inspire the next generation of scientists and meteorologists. I love
Absolutely.
that.
Well, that's if we can do that, then I am succeeding, and that makes my whole year. Well, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Just got a question on Instagram from Jen Malkani. Thank you, Jen, for watching. What are some of the areas or cities in Texas or in Austin specifically that are more likely to flood or high flood areas? So Jen, if your home is on the top of a hill and there's the highest thing around, you're probably fine in terms of not needing flood insurance, not seeing any floodwaters in your home ever. Now, if you live close to a creek, as many of us do, maybe you can walk down to the creek, sometimes there's water in it, usually there's not. That means that you are at a flood risk. If you live near the river, the Colorado River, which we call Lake Austin, Lake Travis, whatever, those can go up and down during floods as well. So I think the safest places are the ones farthest away from the creeks and the rivers and the bodies of water, or the ones highest up. The most dangerous ones, as we get unfortunately reminded of sometimes, are the low-lying ones, especially the ones near places like Onion Creek, sometimes Barton Creek, or even the Colorado River downstream of Austin. The Colorado River downstream of Austin, like Bastrop, Smithville, LaGrange, that is more dangerous than the Colorado River in Austin, because below Austin we don't have any dams to control that water as it flows downhill toward the Gulf. So below Austin, what happens is a little bit harder to predict and can be a little bit riskier.
One question we just got on Facebook from Ella Del Rosario has been one that has been bouncing around a little bit. There's been some information about COVID-19 shared about, is the warm weather going to have any kind of effect on that? And I know you looked into that not too long ago, asking that very question. So if you can maybe clear up some misinformation about how that affects things?
I'm glad you asked, Will, and I'm glad our viewer asked as well. I want to take this moment to clarify this, because I think some folks may have even misinterpreted my segment on that last week, regrettably. Okay. Here's the deal. Colds and viruses, like the flu or whatever, it's been proven, not talking about COVID, just common cold viruses, it's been proven that some viruses like that get exterminated, or at least go down a lot in the summer heat, because, first of all, the summer heat degrades the virus as it floats around. It kind of zaps it out of the sky, we found out. The second reason is the more humid air that you often have in the summer actually means the virus particles can't float around for as long, and they actually fall down to the ground more quickly. So that's why some viruses like the flu go up in the winter and then they kind of go away in the summer. Now, is that for COVID-19? We don't know. That's the big point. I read a lot of articles by disease experts, which I am not, but those smarter than I on the topic say that we hope that might happen, but with a new virus, with no idea how it behaves, and with the way it's mutated over the past several months, they just don't know if that's the case. And also, people are saying even if it does go down a little bit in the summer, which we hope for, it may actually spike again in the fall, similar to other viruses. So again, just to clear that up, we have no idea if the coronavirus COVID-19 is going to go down with the summer heat.
And correct me if I'm wrong, too, there is an article that you wrote on our website about this.
That's right, yes. Yeah. Folks can find that, I think, by searching my name on the website, and that should pop right up for you.
Good to look in that, too. Someone else has asked a question that I think is kind of interesting, and I've also wondered this, too.
Please.
Stephanie Artman is saying, how do you know if it's going to rain? And then the second question is, where did the percentages come from? So those two parts there.
Oh, well, Stephanie, you said, right? Stephanie?
Yes.
Stephanie, we have a video about rain percentages on the website. Go to KXAN.com/FWWU. What does the 10% chance of rain mean? To boil it down for you, and then I'll get to your first question. The percent chance means this. Over our 15 county area, which when you hear my voice on KXAN, I'm talking to 15 counties, not just Travis County and Austin. We're not good enough to tell you exactly where it's going to rain and where it's not, but we are good enough, usually, to tell you that I think 10% of that area is going to get some rain, and 90% of that area in the 15 counties is not. So you can even localize that. If you live in Austin, the little city in the middle of our viewing area, I might say that 90% of the folks in Austin that day probably won't get rain, 10% of the folks in Austin will. That's the simplest explanation for that. How do we know when it's going to rain? I would take you back to the Weather Center, but I can't move all of Will's equipment.
It might take a little bit,
right,
of
he's
time
got
to
a
do
great
that,
setup
yeah.
in here. We have a really complex network of, first of all, observations, which tells you what's going on with the weather now. Things like thermometers, things that measure the pressure, a radar, which is here on the ground, and it senses where it's raining in real time. And then we take all those observations about what the weather's doing, and we project them forward through time with these big computers about what the weather is going to do. So the first phase is, what's the weather doing now? And then these big supercomputers help us out with projecting that forward into the future. So then we can kind of project how these big systems are going to move. Now, are we always accurate? No, and that's why weather, I think, is still the most interesting and most challenging career for me personally, which makes it a fun challenge every day. But we have a lot of sophisticated networks set up to help us predict that. And weather forecasts, an interesting note, have gotten better every decade, really every year, as computing power gets better and as the observation network gets better. Here's an interesting note. A decade ago, that 7-day forecast, it was really good 3 or 4 days out, meaning if it's Monday, I can tell you pretty well all the way through Wednesday or Thursday. Now, every decade, meaning right now, that gets 1 day longer. So now we're really good 4 to 5 days in the future. So when it's Monday, we can tell you pretty well what's going to happen through Thursday or Friday. Now, every decade as we go forward, that accuracy hopefully will get better.
We just got another question in from Veronica Keaton Barker. She's saying, do you ever factor in the Farmer's Almanac?
We don't. No, that's a great question, actually, because a lot of people use that. A lot of people rely on it. And sometimes it's true. Sometimes it comes to fruition. But no, that's not part of our scientific equation. But I should get one just to see how
Some people
often it's
rely
right.
on them,
Yeah, hey, a lot of farmers do.
Well, once again, this is David Yeomans. I'm Will DuPree. We're here at the KXAN live studio answering your questions. We also are wanting to provide some resources to parents whose kids are now at home, now that the schools are closed across Texas because of the COVID-19 outbreak. We are wanting to provide as much resource to you all at home as possible. Once again, David, I think it might be great to mention that all these videos, we just showed one not too long ago, but they're all on our website as well.
That's right, KXAN.com/FWWU, or like Will said, just go to the website, go into the weather tab, and you can see all these fun videos. They're all 60 seconds, a minute and a half. They're bite-sized. They're fun to check out with the kids. Maybe you and the kids can watch one together, and then you can quiz them on what they learned. And maybe you can just do one a day, or like we said, one a week with us. And we can keep this date with you guys on Friday mornings at 9:30 during these strange times. So if you're checking it out for the first time, welcome. We've been doing these for months, and I'm excited to share these now when a lot of us need some entertainment more than ever. Tell your friends, tell your classmates. And hopefully we can all learn something about weather together and make the best of these rainy days.
I think maybe what's so good about this is that you all did this to be able to try to educate people. And at this moment where schools are closing and a lot of districts are trying to figure out how they're going to continue education with kids at home now that the schools have closed, we were a little forward thinking with that to be able to provide this. And so this is another way to show off these great videos that are very easy to digest, very easy to find out about, and people can learn about them too.
Yeah, we hope it's a great resource, and they're free. They're always available. And if you guys have any questions about them, watch these live streams, comment on Facebook, email me, david.yeomans@kxan.com. We can talk about weather stuff with the kids anytime, even when we're not doing these live streams. I know you guys are a little restless sometimes with this extended spring break.
Right. One other question that we've seen, Jeffrey Black is asking,
Please.
Will we see rain in the spring? I think that may be a very generic question, but it's maybe a little bit early to say that too at this point, right?
Safe to say yes,
Yeah.
we will see rain at some point. No, to get more detailed, spring is actually one of our wettest periods. May and June are our wettest months. Well, June, I should say, is our wettest month. We get a secondary rainy season in the fall in October. But yeah, during May, well, first of all, May, we get the most severe weather that we see. So the most flash flooding, like we talked about, tornadoes and hail. June, we don't get as much severe weather, but we get over 4 inches of rain typically during the month of June. So if you like to go out to the Greenbelt, if you like to go out to Lake Travis, I know we haven't been doing great in terms of drought and water levels. Lake Travis is okay, but it is 10 feet lower than it was a year ago today. And the Greenbelt, Barton Creek Greenbelt namely, has not had water in it for months. There is a lot of hope that over the next several months we will change that. We will get some consistent flows in our creeks and streams, and we should also add to the level of Lake Travis. Lake Travis is already up an inch overnight from some heavy rain out in the hill country, and we've got more rain coming tomorrow, so hopefully it continues to add to it.
And I pull up this shot in particular showing the rain coming down in downtown Austin here, but some people are asking when we'll be able to see some sunshine again. I'm looking forward in the forecast too.
Did that question come from me? Because I'm ready for some sun too.
I am too at this point. It's been very gray.
It's been over a week, Will, of mainly or completely cloudy skies, which is pretty rare around here, even in the springtime. The answer is yes, and you can see on the 7-day on our KXAN weather app or on our website under the weather tab. Yes, next week it's going to be 90 degrees plus.
Wow.
For at least 2 days, Wednesday, Thursday. It's going to be sunny. So I know this weather isn't great today, but I might get outside and enjoy it while you can, because you know we always like to complain about one or the other, right? Soon it's going to be too hot, so let's enjoy the 50s today and tomorrow.
That's for sure. Well, David, before we go, is there anything you'd want to add for people out there? Remind them again, we are planning to do these every Friday morning, so to try to share some lessons out there and some different information for people who are stuck at home at the moment.
That's right. Yeah, First Warning Weather University, it is geared toward you and your kids. We've heard a lot of feedback from adults, from teachers, and from kids alike. Everybody can learn something from them, hopefully. They're always available on our website. They're always free. And the bigger goal here is to learn cool stuff about the weather. And hopefully you guys can find extra use in those during the following weeks, during these uncertain times. And speaking of these uncertain times, I'll take a moment to shout out Will DuPree, who is too humble to ever take credit for anything himself. But this man, if you haven't seen his live streams every single day, push to your KXAN News app or on KXAN.com. He always has the very latest breaking news with COVID-19, with coronavirus. So thank you, Will, for everything you do.
And I'm blushing now, so thank you for that. Well, again, meteorologist David Yeomans. David, tell everybody where they can follow you, because you post a lot of different information for people that's very pertinent.
Yes, just search on Facebook for David Yeomans, Yeomans, or on Instagram. I think you had the little thing pulled up. It's at David Yeomans Weather.
There you can see it at the bottom of the screen.
I finally started a work Instagram page like a couple weeks ago. I took the dive. So give me some followers, come along, and we'll take this ride together.
I think this will help you in some way.
Thank you.
All right, David, once again, thank you for being here. Thank you all for watching as well. Today we are getting lots of new information about COVID-19, possible additional changes that might be happening. The governor last night at our town hall right here at KXAN had said that there may be some action taken on the U.S.-Mexico border, which of course would affect Texas a lot. So that action and that any new information might come here relatively soon. So we will pass that along as soon as we can get it. But please stay with us here on KXAN, because there was a lot of information coming in. It's changing literally moment to moment, which is a little overwhelming for us, but we're trying our best to be as factual and accurate with all of you at home. So please keep up with us here on our streaming platforms, on our app, KXAN News, and on our KXAN.com website. We appreciate you all following along. At this point, once again, we will have these First Warning Weather University streams every Friday morning, so please join us at 9:30. We'll see you back here throughout the day. Enjoy the rest of it.